They say karma takes its time, but when it finally shows up, it knocks on the right door. This is how Miss Ernestine found her peace, not through revenge, but through revelation. There's something sacred about trusting someone with both your heart and your secrets. And when that trust is broken not once, but twice, well, baby, something in you just don't ever come back quite the same. I remember the moment like it was yesterday. The air was thick with the weight of southern summer, the kind of heat that don't ask permission. It just slides in through your screen door and settles on your neck. I was sittin' on my mama's old wicker chair on the porch, sippin' warm ginger lemonade and listening to the cicadas scream like God forgot to turn down the volume. That's when I saw them, laughin', smillin', too close for comfort. You ever witness something that ain't meant for you, but the moment it catches your eye, your spirit knows you weren't wrong. Tyrone, my man, at least, he was back then, standing way too close to Myra. Myra, my best friend since 8th grade. The kind of friend who sat next to me at my daddy's funeral, wiped tears off my chin, and cussed out boys who broke my heart in college. I saw her laugh and touch his arm. Just a little thing, but too familiar. Like she knew what that arm felt like already. I didn't say nothin' that day. I just sat there, heart thumpin' like a forewarning drum, wondering if the devil himself had pulled up a seat at my table. But let me not get ahead of myself. Let me take y'all back to before the storm, when I thought love was solid and friendships were unshakable. I met Tyrone in college, right outside the bookstore. I remember because he dropped all his textbooks on the grass, and instead of rushing to pick them up, he just let out this lazy laugh and said, "Guess God didn't want me passin' by 101. He had this way of making you feel like the world wasn't so bad. Like even when things fell apart, it was somehow still a little bit funny. We weren't fast, not the type to jump in deep waters. It took us 5 months just to hold hands in public, and when he finally kissed me, it was right after I told him my mama had cancer. Maybe that's what bound us, grief and timing. We dated through the end of my degree. He never rushed me, never cheated on schoolwork, never cheated on me, or so I thought. We moved in together after graduation. Got a small 2-bedroom off Highway 19, halfway between my job at the library and his work at the auto shop. It wasn't fancy. Mismatched curtains, hand-me-down couch from his auntie, a leak in the bathroom ceiling that we just put a pot under and laughed about every time it rained. But it was ours. It felt like home. And Myra, well, Myra was part of that home too. We'd been inseparable since middle school. When her mama kicked her out at 16, she stayed with us for 2 months like it was nothing. She was the kind of woman who could walk into any room and make it feel brighter or colder, depending on who you were to her. She'd come over every Friday. Game nights, wine nights, just talk nights. Sometimes she'd help me cook. Well, that's generous. Mostly, she'd sit on my kitchen counter swingin' her legs, talking trash, and sipping red wine while I cooked. Lord, I should have seen the signs. She'd always overstay, too. Just one more glass, girl, she'd say, eyes mischievous, lips already half stained from the Cabernet. And Tyrone, he never seemed to mind, thought nothing of it. But that's how trouble works. It don't shout. It whispers behind your back while you're stirring the gumbo. It was an ordinary Thursday when my gut started tingling. And baby, if there's one thing I've learned, don't you ever ignore a woman's gut. That instinct is older than the Bible. Tyrone started getting phone calls he'd take outside. Now, he always used to take calls in the kitchen, said the acoustics were better. But now, he'd step out onto the porch, whisperin', back turned. And Myra, she had turned on her notifications, the little buzz every time you get a text. And suddenly, they started going off an awful lot. I noticed one night during dinner, we were all at the table, eatin' baked chicken and creamed corn. Myra's phone buzzed 3 times in a row, and every time she'd glance at it, then sneak a look at Tyrone. Not long, just enough, like they shared some inside joke I wasn't in on. And Tyrone, he wouldn't talk much those nights. Just chew slow, avoid eye contact, and jump up a little too quick to clear his plate. I caught him smillin' to himself more than once. At first, I thought I was going crazy. I wanted to be going crazy, trust me. 'Cause the alternative meant the 2 people I trusted most were doing the one thing I couldn't forgive. Then came the lipstick incident. I found a lipstick I didn't own in the pocket of his jeans. Now, I ain't the type to snoop through pockets, but I was doing laundry, and it just fell out. It was a deep burgundy color, cheap brand, Myra's color. That was the first time I ever felt my hand shake doing something as simple as holding a lipstick. I didn't confront him then. No, ma'am. I just tucked it away in my nightstand drawer, kissed him on the cheek that evening, and smiled through dinner like I wasn't dying inside. I thought maybe I was reading too much into things. You know how we do. We give folks second chances before we ever give ourselves the first one. We gaslight our own hearts before we ever call out someone else's deception. So I waited. I watched. I listened. They tell you not to go looking for what you ain't ready to find. But sometimes the truth knocks you out before you build enough strength to stand in it. The moment things began to fall apart for real, it was quiet. Too quiet. One Saturday evening, I had to go to the library to help with a community event. We were doing a little book fair for the kids. I told Tyrone I'd be back before dinner, and to just relax, maybe start on that leaky sink he'd been promising to fix. When I came home, the lights were dim. Too dim. Usually, Tyrone liked the lamp on in the living room. It made the space feel cozy, warm. But that night, it was dark except for the flicker of the TV and the faint smell of coconut lotion in the air. I didn't use coconut lotion, not since I was 17. It reminded me too much of summer flings and sweet lies. I walked in slow, quiet. There were 2 glasses half full on the coffee table. One had lipstick on the rim, burgundy. I will never forget that color as long as I live. My heart wasn't poundin' like in the movies. It was doing the opposite. It got real still. Like my body knew it had to go quiet to survive. I crept toward the back of the house, thinking maybe, just maybe, I was making assumptions. But when I opened our bedroom door, Lord help me, Tyrone was sittin' on the edge of our bed, shirtless, looking up like a child caught playing with matches. And there she was, Myra, wrapping herself in my silk robe, the same one she got me for my birthday last year. Neither of them said a word, not a syllable, for about 10 solid seconds. All I could hear was the ceiling fan creaking, the wind outside barely stirring. Then I laughed, not a loud kind of laugh, just this small, broken sound, like something inside me cracked and was leaking out through my throat. You could have at least used the guest room, I said, staring straight at her. Myra had the nerve to drop her eyes like she was the one betrayed. Tyrone tried to speak, but I held my hand up so strong it shook. Don't even ruin your mouth, forming a lie. I turned around, walked straight out. Not a scream, not a slap, not one tear fell, not yet. But baby, don't mistake silence for weakness. That was the night I buried the woman who believed in that kind of love. And the next morning, I woke up a stranger to myself. I didn't sleep that night. Just lay there on Mama's old couch in my childhood home, staring at the ceiling like it held the answers to everything I couldn't understand. Myra texted once. No apology, just, you knew we had chemistry. It just happened. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Harder than it needs to be. That woman stole 10 years of friendship. And the man I built a life with. I stared at her message until the screen dimmed. Deleted it. Then I sat up, swung my feet on that old maplewood floor, and said aloud, "Okay, God, what now?" It took me about 2 weeks to move out of that house. Tyrone offered to stay with his brother, Marcus, to give me space. Imagine that. Give me space in a home I picked, paid for, and cleaned while he was laying in the bed with my so-called best friend. But I let him leave. Let him pack up his duffel bag and cheap apologies. Marcus came by the next afternoon to help me carry a few things to storage. He was quiet at first, didn't say too much, just looked at me like I was this fragile thing he didn't know how to carry. Then, as we were loading boxes into his truck, he paused, leaned against the side of the bed, and said real gentle, like somebody winding a pocket watch, "I'm sorry, Ness. I would have never let that happen if I thought, damn." I looked at him and just nodded. We both knew there wasn't nothing else to say right then. But what started as a favor turned into something else. Marcus kept checking in, asking if I'd eaten, if I wanted him to bring over a movie, a meal, maybe help rearrange furniture in my new place. Not once did he mention his brother or Myra. One night, I was sitting on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by unpacked boxes and takeout containers, when he showed up with peach cobbler. "I got it from that spot you like off MLK," he said, holding it up like a peace offering. I looked at him long and hard, wondering if this was some kind of twisted game. But his eyes, they carried a softness I never saw in Tyrone, a stillness. "I ain't trying nothing, Ness," he said, reading my thoughts like pages. "I just don't like the thought of you eatin' alone." And that was the first time I let myself smile in weeks. Not because I was in love, but because, for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. I didn't start seeing Marcus out of revenge. That's important for me to say, because when you've been broken the way I was, your first instinct is to protect, not provoke. And even though Tyrone had gutted me right there in our own home, on a bed we used to pray in, I didn't have revenge in my heart, but healing. Oh, I wanted that. And somehow, Marcus made space for it. Now Marcus was the quiet kind. Where Tyrone had charm and swagger, Marcus had patience and stillness. He didn't fill the silence with jokes or small talk. He just sat in the wounded spaces with me, let me be too quiet, too sad, too broken. And he never asked me to smile. One day, maybe 3 weeks after the betrayal, we were sitting outside my place. It had rained that morning, and everything smelled like wet earth and new beginnings. He handed me a cup of coffee from that cafe. I liked the kind with the cinnamon swirl whipped into the top. I just looked at him and said, "Why are you doing this?" He didn't blink, didn't pause. "Because somebody should." I let the silence hang between us, filled with everything I couldn't say. My fingers were wrapped tight around the coffee cup, not from the chill in the air, but from the ache in my chest. "I feel stupid," I finally whispered, like I missed something everybody else could see. He looked away for a moment, then back at me. "You didn't miss it, Ness. You just trusted people you loved," he said. "Ain't nothing stupid about that. That's grace." Phew. I could have cried right then and there, but I didn't. I just stared at that cup like it had all the answers. It started small after that. He'd text me good morning. I'd text back around lunchtime. We'd send each other songs, old school stuff, mostly. I remember the first one I sent him was Anita Baker's "Sweet Love." The moment he replied with Luther Vandross, I knew we were speaking the same language. Then one afternoon, I got home and found a jasmine candle sitting at my front door. No note, just the scent I once said reminded me of childhood. I didn't have to check to know it was from him. That same week, I ran into Tyrone at the gas station. I was pumping gas, hair in a rush bun, wearing leggings and an oversized t-shirt. Not looking like much. He pulled up in the next stall and gave that half smile he used to give when he was about to lie. "How you been?" he asked, casual. I didn't answer for a second, just looked at him like someone I used to know. "Better," I said simply, and turned back to my car. Before I finished, he added, "You been talking to Marcus, huh?" There it was. I looked at him, then really looked. And for the first time, I saw a man who had holes in his soul he was too proud to patch up. "I've been talking to somebody who didn't break me." He didn't respond, just nodded slow, like he finally realized what he'd lost and who had found it instead. Not long after that run-in, word started spreadin'. In a town like ours, it didn't take much. A cousin of a friend saw me and Marcus at the Sunday farmers market. We weren't holding hands or nothin', just walkin' slow, side by side, with coffee cups and quiet laughter between us. But people see what they want to see, and baby, they saw everything. Myra reached out first, sent me this long, bony paragraph through Facebook Messenger. "Wow, so this is who you are now. For real. Guess we both found out you're not as graceful as you act." I read it twice, deleted it without clapping back. Not a single word. She didn't deserve my pain, didn't even deserve my grammar. Tyrone texted 2 days later, "You know you wrong for this, Ern. That's my brother." I stared at my screen, took a deep breath, and replied, "And you know you were wrong for her in my house, on our bed. We all make choices, Tyrone." Did he respond? Nope, he didn't need to. Because truth got this way of echoing longer than lies ever could. It's one thing to be hurt in private, but when folks start whispering your story in grocery aisles and beauty shops, that's a whole different taste of betrayal. See, around here, word don't travel, it gallops. At first, folks weren't saying nothing to my face, but I could feel the looks, the double takes when I went to church and sat next to Marcus in the third pew. The way a few of the choir ladies whispered more than they sang. It was the curl of their lips that told me they weren't praying for peace. They were praying for gossip. But I kept my head high. Let M whisper. I earned my peace. Let M guess what happened in my house, between my walls. Let M speculate. I knew the truth, and more importantly, they did too. Marcus never hid from it, never once acted ashamed. He'd take my hand in public, kiss my cheek in front of the aunties, and talk to folks like nothing was wrong. And maybe that's what burned folks up more than anything, not just the scandal, but the fact that we weren't broke by it. The one person I hadn't heard from yet was Marcus and Tyrone's mama, Miss Thelma. And Lord, that woman had a stare so sharp, it could slice a lemon in half from across the room. Now, Miss Thelma always liked me. She used to braid my hair on Sunday evenings and send me home with hot rolls wrapped in foil. She once told me I was the only girl she could imagine raising her future grandbabies. So when she invited me over for a small visit, I knew I had to prepare myself. I wore something simple. No thrills, no makeup, just clean lines and respect. Because I didn't come to defend myself. I came to make peace, if there was any left to be made. She opened the door, her face tight, unreadable. "Come on in, sugar," she said. And that sugar was colder than the tea she poured for me in her living room. We sat across from each other, calm as two Sunday school teachers on the outside. She looked me square in the eye. "I heard what's been going on." I nodded. "I figured you might, Miss Thelma." She set her cup down slow, then folded her hands in her lap. "What your best friend and my son did, that was filth," she said, clear as day. "I raised my boys better than that, though Lord knows, sometimes they don't listen." I didn't say a word. She sighed then, deep and long. "I also heard about you and Marcus." I nodded again, slower this time. "It's not a game, ma'am. He's been good to me." She looked at me harder than before. "I never wanted this for either of y'all," she said. "But I also know my Marcus. He don't give his heart to just anybody. And if he's given it to you, then that boy means it." It took me a second to realize my hands were trembling in my lap. Miss Thelma reached across the table and placed her hand right on top of mine. "I'm not mad at you, baby. I'm mad at who forced you to find comfort in the arms of another brother. But I also know God works in crooked lines sometimes to straighten out the truth. You ever bite your bottom lip to keep the tears from falling?" That was me. I just nodded and whispered, "Thank you." And in that moment, that living room didn't feel like a battlefield anymore. It felt like permission. Now don't get me wrong, I wasn't keeping score, but the scoreboard made itself known anyway. Word got around that Myra and Tyrone didn't last long past the mess they made. 2 months, tops. Folks say they argued in public like cats and dogs. She got fired from her job after she popped off at a customer. You know, she always had a tongue sharper than sense. And Tyrone, well, turns out cheaters don't exactly prosper. His reputation at the auto shop took a hit. People don't trust a man to fix engines if he can't even fix his own damn house. He got quiet around town. Real quiet, like a ghost in broad daylight. No one exiled him. Nobody ran him off. But that's the thing about self-made shame. It don't need a judge or a jury. It haunts all by itself. Now, some folks might have rejoiced in that. But me, all I felt to was done. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was just free. One Sunday after service, the head deacon's wife came up to me, slipped her arm through mine while we were headed to the parking lot, and said, "Now I know it wasn't easy what you went through, but the way you held yourself, baby, that's how a woman stands in the fire and comes out smelling like she walked through roses." I laughed to myself, not out loud, just the kind of laugh you carry deep in your ribs from all the times you thought you wouldn't make it. I used to think healing was one big moment, something loud and dramatic. Thought maybe I'd wake up one morning, look in the mirror, and say, "Yep, I'm over it." But it don't work like that. Healing is slow. It's subtle, like light returning to a room after a storm. Some days you still feel soaked. Other days you find the sun again. Being with Marcus didn't fix me, but baby, it helped me remember myself. He never asked me to forget what happened. We didn't pretend either. We walked through it like two people patching a porch, still creaky in the corners, but strong enough to carry weight. One night, months later, we were sittin' on a blanket at the neighborhood jazz festival. Music floatin' all around us, cool breeze mackin', the air feel like honey on your skin. I was leanin' on his shoulder, and I whispered, "If you want to leave before the next set, we can. I know this is more my thing than yours." And he just smiled that small, patient smile and kissed the top of my head. I'd sit through 10 trumpet solos if it means sitting next to you. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't poetry, but it was real. The kind of love that shows up in the middle of the mess, plants seeds, and waits for you to bloom. One late September evening, I checked my mailbox and found a letter. No return address, just my name. The handwriting was sharp, familiar. I opened it on my porch with tired hands and a full heart. Ain't that something? All this time later, I had peace before I knew what she said. Myra's letter started like this: "I won't ask for forgiveness because I didn't earn it. And truth is, you probably see me as the villain. Maybe I am, but I still remember the sound of your laugh when we were 13. And I hate that I'll probably never hear it again." She didn't make excuses, didn't beg. She just reflected, said Tyrone brought out the worst in her, said maybe that's no excuse, but it's the only reason she had. Said she missed the way we used to talk, how she caught herself driven past Mama's old house the other day just to feel something again. And at the end, she wrote, "You're a better woman than me, always were. And whatever you got with Marcus, don't question it. You never stole him, you saved him." I folded the letter quiet, didn't cry, didn't smile neither, just sat there under the porch light, that soft hum of night buzzin' all around me, and whispered, "I hope you find peace too, Myra. Wherever you gotta go to get it. I won't lie to you. Some scars still itch when the air changes. There are days I walk past the bedroom mirror and remember what used to live in the reflection. A softer girl, one who bent herself quiet so others could speak loud. But now I speak back. I ask questions. I follow my gut like it's gospel, because baby, it is. Marcus and I still move slow. We're not planning weddings or picking out paint swatches, but we wake up most mornings with laughter in the kitchen and peace at the table. That's more than most get. And for now, that's enough. Sometimes I see Tyrone out, usually on Sunday mornings, pulling out of the old Shell station. He always glances over like he wants to say something, but I never stop, because some people are meant to be lessons, not leftovers. I keep the porch light on now, not for him, not for her, but for me, because the woman who walked out of that betrayal ain't the same woman who walked in. And if healing has a shape, a sound, a rhythm, it looks like choosing yourself, even if your voice shakes, even if no one claps for you after. I've learned that love, real love, ain't loud. It's patient, it's kind, and sometimes it's your ex's brother showing up with cobbler and reminders that you still deserve soft things. They say karma takes its time, but when it finally shows up, it knocks on the right door. And sometimes it don't come loud or angry. Sometimes karma just shows you the truth, then steps back and lets you decide who you want to be after. I could have fought fire with fire, could have thrown hands, burned bridges, screamed in the streets. But instead, I stayed quiet. I healed, not for him, not even out of spite for her, but for me, because peace is the most expensive thing you can own. And baby, once you buy it with your pain, you don't ever want to give it up. Sometimes, the people who betray you weren't meant to love you forever. They were sent to show you your own strength. And sometimes, the person who picks up your broken heart isn't who you expected, but someone who'd been waiting all along with hands strong enough to hold it. So now I say this to you, wherever you are in your own story. When they break you, how will you rebuild? Will you chase revenge or choose revelation? Will you harden yourself or leave your porch light on just in case grace stops by? Would you have opened your heart like I did? Or would you have done things differently? Tell me in the comments below. And if this story wrapped around your spirit like it wrapped around mine, go on and hit that subscribe button. Auntie Me's always got room for one more listener on the porch. Until next time, baby, keep your heart soft, your spine strong, and your story sacred.